Well, good evening, and thank you all for joining us. For those of you who do not know me, my name is David Ratliff, and I've brought us all together because I think it's very important that we discuss the issue at hand, which is a possible teacher strike that very well could start tomorrow. I've invited, our guests were Melinda Bush and Lenny Jarrett. I did not hear back from Melinda Bush, but she is the Democratic candidate for Senate. Lenny Jarrett is the Republican candidate for state Senate in our district. There are other candidates, and I implore that you all look at all the candidates before you decide anything. This is not a political rally by any means. We are here to discuss schools. My number one thought, I've been in politics for 6 years now. I met Lenny Jarrett 6 years ago, and I can't think of anyone on this planet that is more knowledgeable when it comes to school district issues. So I thought, as my friend Lenny Jarrett, I wanted him here in our community to help us along. So I will introduce Lenny in a moment here, but I do want to state, this is going to be an open forum. You're all available to come up here and ask questions, and I do hope that you all will get up and ask. This is a very important issue. I do have a few rules I'd like to go over. Anyone is free to ask a question. Just line up to the microphone, take turns. If you have more than one question, please ask one question and move to the back of the line. Let everyone get their question in. Very important. Please keep your questions short. No speeches on the floor. We're here to learn about what's going on and listen to Lenny, not any one of us. No personal attacks of any kind, not against the school board, not against candidates, not against anyone. No profanity, no threats. And if this were to be a debate, if Melinda does decide to show up, we need to keep this civil, because that is what I brought you here for, is a debate. Let's all be adults, keep it together, and again, I thank you for coming. Now I'll introduce you to Lenny Jarrett. He is the Republican candidate for state Senate seat. He has a track record for fighting for families and citizens of Grays Lake and across Lake County. And I will also say across Lake County, one of the main things Lenny Jarrett did is when Parver was having their issues with the school referendum, Lenny Jarrett, who lives in Round Lake, was at the forefront of helping them try and defeat that. So he's not just this person or candidate that stays in his community, in his local community. He came up here, he got with the residents, he helped them in any way he could. He has spent countless hours exposing wasteful spending, fighting exorbitant property tax increases, holding local elected officials accountable, and helping get fiscally conservative candidates elected. So tonight, I introduce Lenny Jarrett.
Thank you, Dave, for hosting this event. I'd like to start off saying thank you for all for coming out tonight. And yeah, basically, I want this to be an open forum. I wish Melinda was here so we could have lots of points of view. Melinda actually used to be a union representative for the non-certified unions in Grays Lake District 46. And she was a co-chairman of the referendum committee when I first started working in education and digging into what was really going on. I started 6 years ago for that, because of that referendum. I started asking questions of the school district. Okay, where are you spending your money? How much are you spending here? How much are you spending there? So I can start looking and see, okay, do they really need a referendum? Because education is the key to the future for all children. And we need to do well with education. We need to provide a good education to every child. Every child needs access to a quality education. What I found out was, I started asking questions. 2 weeks later, somebody hacked my website, posted on the internet my home address, how much I paid for my house, my wife's name, how many kids that I had, and the fact that I had started homeschooling. And I realized then there's a problem here, so I started digging more. And as you can see, I started helping other communities and helping them from what I uncovered, how to do it, how to do FOIAs, how to go dig into the information, what to look for, how to find out whether they're spending the money where it should be going or not. And deeper you dig, the more you find out there's a real lack of transparency in a lot of the taxing bodies around here. And not just schools, but in all the other taxing bodies. Illinois has over 7,000 taxing bodies. We have more taxing bodies than any other state in the country. We have about twice as many as all the surrounding states around us. So that's why when you start looking at your property taxes, you find out real quick where your money's going, you can look at all those taxing bodies, and it does. It gets tiresome because there's so many taxing bodies, it's hard to do, and we need to streamline some of that process so there are less taxing bodies, but it needs to be up to you, the citizens, on which taxing bodies need to be removed so you can have more efficient government. Some services are great, some services are needed, and you need to be able to choose by your community which ones are good, which ones you like to keep, which ones you're willing to pay for, which ones you're not willing to pay for. So to go into a little bit more, when Dave asked me here, I also been contacted by several people in the Zion School District, both at the district level and as employees, when they were concerned about the strike, possible strike coming up when the teachers, the unions voted for a strike last fall. And they started talking to me about some issues and things going on. And so I talked to Dave, I talked to some other people up here in the community, and I wanted to come up and I did a little bit of research and looking at what's going on up here, specifically, the median income for a family in Zion is $47,000, $47,607. The median income for a teacher at Zion Benton High School is $68,000. The average is $73,000. I mean, education is important, so we need to pay our teachers. The problem we're seeing, though, is that the union bosses here, Corinne Wood and Mike McGew, looks like what they're doing is forcing the union, the teachers that are just coming out of school, the teachers that are struggling to pay off their school loans, they're being taken advantage of by the union bosses, is really what appears to be happening more. And that's kind of the thing. The teachers we have, I know there's some good teachers here in Zion, there's good teachers in every school district around Illinois. The problem is the union bosses are making it hard. Teachers right now, one of the statistics I saw was about 67% of teachers leave that school district within the first 5 years that they're employed when they come out of school. Over almost 40% leave the profession within the first 5 years. And one of the major reasons is pay. And one of the things I actually proposed to the school district, I have presented that to the district itself, is that we shift the pay structure to be more like what happens in the private sector, where when you get hired in the private sector, when you first come in, you get faster raises when you first get in. It's an incentive to keep you there, an incentive to keep the young teachers, the young talent, so that they stay there and get loyalty to the school district or to a company. And as you get past the midpoint, the raises start to slow down because you're making a lot more money. Therefore, the raises don't need to be quite as high. But you're still there. Everybody's there with teachers. As everybody knows, you have tenure, so their job is guaranteed. The other problem with tenure becomes the fact that the younger teachers, they're struggling through this every year when the boards and stuff are forced into giving out huge raises over time. That ends up making all the young teachers get fired. That's why you have those rifts, so many rifts every year, where the young teachers that are not tenured are the ones on the chopping block every single year. And so the union bosses like Corinne McGew and Mike, they're not affected by that. So it's really affecting the young teachers and is affecting the talent pool that's coming into the teaching profession. It's making it harder and harder for good teachers to stay in the profession. What I'd like to do now is really open it up to you. Find out what questions you have, things that you would like to see. One other issue I know we can talk about is pensions. I know that's an issue that probably will come up already. The pensions, the one thing the teachers are going to have to realize, especially the unions, the union like Corinne McGew and Mike McGew, they're getting ready to retire in a couple years. So they are not as affected by what's going to happen with the pension. Illinois is $85 billion behind on their pension payments for teachers. There has to be a change in the system. The people that are in the system, they've been promised the pensions, they deserve to get those pensions. The problem comes if we don't change the pension system for the incoming employees. It is going to affect their current teachers, and the teachers, especially at the younger levels now that are just starting out in the teaching profession, they're going to end up getting hurt by what's happening because of the union bosses and the unwillingness to come up with a solution and work on a solution that makes sure that the retirement system and the pensions money is going to be there for everybody when the time comes. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to come up and let's open it up to the floor and see what questions you have. So yeah, just make a line here at the podium.
Something you did not raise that I am sure you're very knowledgeable about. I don't think that everyone understands the way step raises work. If you could please explain that. But also, if you know, what is the current step raise program and what is the board looking to do tonight in their negotiations?
Well, the current, I know the current contract, you can go online and look at the final offers for both the union and the Zion Benton, the district. The current contract has 15 years of step raises, and the board is trying to move that to a 30-year step because it helps them control their costs and it makes it more sustainable. The board is offering for the next 3 years, basically 10%, 433, which is very generous in this economy, and they're paying for the complete 10.375% retirement for the teachers. So the board is being very generous here in what's going on, and what's happening with the pay schedule. To let you know what the pay schedule is, every year a teacher that's been there the next year they automatically move to the next step in that same lane. The education, they change lanes based on the amount of education and stuff they get. So when you talk about teachers getting multiple raises, it's actually because a lot of districts will have multiple salary schedules, one for each year of the contract. So there's a raise to go from one salary schedule to the next. The second raise for a lot of districts is they will get a raise because they've had another year of service, so now they go down another step in that same lane. So it's effectively a two raise system, even though it's only one time a year that happens. And then the third raise is if they change lanes, and they change lanes based on getting more education, and which should make them better teachers, but it doesn't always do that. Our system is not set up to reward good teachers. You have a good teacher that makes $50,000, you have good teachers that make $80,000, but you also have bad teachers that make $80,000, and the way the current system is set up, it doesn't matter, because if they've been there the same time, they get the exact same raise, and it's not based on performance and what their educational outcomes are for the kids that are in their classes.
My name is Sean Salder. I live here at Zion. A lot of stuff's been going on here, politics, statistics. It really doesn't matter. We live here. We want to know how to lower our taxes, and I already know how to do that. I hear what you're saying, okay? But I blame all three bodies: the teachers, the unions, and the school board. If you look at the school board and you go to their meetings, they won't listen to you. Or they'll they'll listen to you, and then you know what they'll do? They'll go back in their little office and they'll vote 15-0. We will raise the levy. Now, as a state senator, I don't know how this came about, but the lion's share of our taxes go to every district for the school. Now, with that said, people need to understand, and I believe this is where we should actually pinpoint and teach all of us what can we do to lower our taxes. It's a two-part problem. You have the school board, who's a levying party who can levy taxes. The other part is the state, IMRF. Yeah, we have a pension issue. We have a dollar issue. We have a federal issue. You know, I live here now. I can barely make my payment as it is. That's what I want to hear. What can I do to lower my taxes? And you know what? I can use the appeals process. But the bottom line is, I blame every one of those people. And I live right by the high school.
Yeah.
My child's going to be in high school in 2 years. And you know, we're already looking at Nutrier, this and that, supplemental, but I'll tell you what, my tax dollars, that school board who represents me is not doing their job. The person who's in Congress downstate is not doing theirs. That's where we need to investigate. You can call it what you want, you can call the statistics. And here's another problem, and I have another question directly for you. This school, Zion Benton High School, hasn't been making their mark for years. So if you follow the law, they should be shut down. There's a way out right there. New blood is the way to go. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with the budgeting process and the way the state works. And the state system, one thing, IMRF is actually the villages and the townships and stuff retirement system. The schools actually have teachers retirement system, which is TRS, which is different. The IMRF is actually fully funded right now because the municipalities are forced to pay in an 8%. If the market doesn't provide 8%, the taxing bodies have to pay it up. It's not like the state. The state is the one is failing to pay their portion of the TRS. But yes, the budgeting process, what you have to do, you have to go to the budgeting hearings, you have to get involved in your schools to get them to see how the budgeting is what's causing the problem. They passed that budget in September. Almost nearly every school around takes into account what they expect the tax increase that is going to be. So when they pass that budget, they've already agreed to spend that money. So that's why it makes it hard for them to not raise the levy up to the max to make sure they're getting the maximum. The other problem is that a lot of people don't realize is when the school districts get more from the local property taxes, the state funding gets cut. There's a formula that they have to use. So as your property taxes go up, the money coming from the state goes down. So it's really the property taxes are the state sanctioned tax, and they use it against one another. That's why it is a two-pronged approach. You have to go to the local taxing bodies, you have to be at their meetings, you have to be at their budget processes and start talking to them about controlling their expenses. 80% of their expenses, like almost every company, is salary, pensions, and benefits. So you have to take a look at that. You can't just keep cutting the edges and hope you're going to make a difference. They have to make sure their pay structures are sustainable and can long-term be able to handle what revenue they have. Actually, this year, several taxing bodies have actually flattened their levy or even lowered their levy. And Gavin School District actually left their levy flat this year. They did not raise their levy. So it can be done. It just takes hard work and a lot of education and getting the right people elected to your school boards. You have to pay attention. And that's a part of the problem. A lot of people don't pay attention, and the people that aren't going to be fiscally responsible, they just go in there, they listen to the superintendent and the administration, and they don't really dig into the numbers because honest school boards don't get paid. Some of them don't want to take the time it really takes to dig into the numbers and find out where they can make cuts and where they can do it. And then when it comes down to a strike, like is happening here in Zion, it makes it more difficult because then there's political pressure. One thing you guys have to do is if you want the board helping to control cost, you have to support them. You have to make phone calls, call the administration up, call the school board members up, and tell them you support what they're doing and that their offer is fair, and that's what you have to do. But you have to do it. You have to get involved. And yes, some of this will have to be done at the state level, but you can have a difference at the local level, because that's what I've been doing for the last 6 years, is doing exactly that and holding them accountable and making them actually look at everything they have to do. Grace Lake has cut almost $7 million out of their budget. Are they going to be in financial trouble in a few years? Yes, absolutely. They still have not controlled their costs enough because they raise their levy and max it out every single year. So it's still work to do, and it's really hard. As far as the grades and stuff go, I mean, that's a more difficult issue. One thing I advocate is the money should follow every child. Every parent, you know how your child is educated best. You should be given the choice where your child goes to school. You should not be told by a bureaucracy where your child is going to get educated. And that's one of the things, when you start doing that, if you look at some of the school choice initiatives around the country, Milwaukee's is starting to have a great effect up there. Not only are the kids that take advantage of the school choice improved, the 80% that are still in the same schools that they left, their scores have also improved. Competition does make a difference. There's a film called The Experiment that I've yet to see. A friend of mine just told me about it last night, how they've done this in New Orleans. After Katrina, they actually went to a lot of charter schools and a lot of different methods, but the parents got to start choosing and they got involved. Parental involvement goes up when you allow them to have a choice on how their child is educated. And that then starts to control the cost, and it also improves teacher pay. The teachers that are there, they start having to work for that. It's not given to them based on how many years they've been in the school district. The competition starts to improve, and then schools start to compete for good teachers. And so salary increases have also been coming because of school choice.
And if you don't attack the teachers individually and keep this about their bosses that are making them do this, because trust me, I guarantee you there's 35-40% of the teachers in that school that aren't going to sleep tonight because they don't know where their check's coming in 2 weeks.
And one more thing that wasn't brought up, and I did receive this letter and do have the proof, if anybody needs to see it, it's on my phone. When school teachers strike, they lose their health care insurance that day. Right. So for those of you who don't know that, imagine yourself being a 25-year-old just out of college, maybe not married, have maybe a small child at home. you just lost your health care insurance.
Yeah, I've got the letters right here, Dave.
Yes. So, you know, it's a very, very scary thing for these kids, basically, that have just been in for a few years. And I will say that I've spoken to a few teachers under 30 years old. None of them that I've spoken to want to strike. From what I gather, it's a majority that are 15 and 20 years that they shouldn't care, quite honestly. So, but again, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it, and we'll speak soon. Have a wonderful night.